Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of STL Sunday. This is a show where I try and walk you through some helpful CAD instruction that may apply to RC as well as just your general skill set in CAD. Today, I'm going to work on something that many of you, especially if you're just starting to get into CAD and already into 3D printing, may have an interest in, and that is taking an existing or downloaded file and either working with it, modifying it, or like building from that as your base, as that's something you may need to do. I want to do something similar today. If you've been following, I've been building a 3D printable skid steer that is completed. But I want to take it one step further and I want to add my FPV system to it, my head tracking HD FPV system from Iron Quad that I currently have in my H10 Optic. Now, the H10 Optic, they have a downloadable file that you can put this system right into, which is great. But that mount isn't just going to fit in my skid steer. Now, the skid steer is all 3D printable, so therefore I have all of the files for it too. But an STL file is not exactly the same as a file you create in CAD or Fusion in this case. It's actually, you can export your files to an STL as you've likely done or you may be interested in doing, but the base model is a little bit different. So it can be a little bit more in depth to work with at times, but I'm going to try and break it down as simply as possible today. So I'm going to open up Fusion for you, and we're going to dive into this. So here's a blank desktop of Fusion, like you will see as soon as you open the program for the very first time. What I need to do is I need to bring in all of those files, those meshes or STLs that I want to work with. So we're going to go into the insert on the right side of the screen, and we're going to go down to insert mesh, as that's what an STL file is. From here, we're going to select from my computer, and I'm going to start with the cab first. So we're going to open that, and that's going to come in. Now, this cab is oriented in a way that's at a bit of an angle because of how the designer has it set up to be able to be easily 3D printed. I'm going to correct that a bit by rotating it down, and it looks like it's kind of halfway in between a couple of these dimensions. It's okay. We're just going to get it close. From there, I'm going to hit OK. That's the first piece that we need. Now we're going to bring in the seat file. So I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to go Insert, Mesh, and I'm going to select from my computer, and I'm going to select the seat. We're going to open. This is also a similar situation, even though it's rotated again. Now, what I'm doing when I'm rotating is I'm grabbing these little circles, those nodes, and you'll notice that there's multiples of those because it depends on which plane you're looking at, which way that they're available. So for me, I know that this is the bottom of the seat here. So I know that I need to, if I'm looking at the right plane, I know I need to rotate this down to about like that. Now this wasn't perfectly flat. We're going to kind of work with that. So from there, I'm actually just going to kind of hit OK at this point because I have to, if I try to rotate it from this angle now, it didn't stay with a flat plane. It now has that one rotated up as well. So it's just going to be easier to just hit OK at this point and then move again. So at this point, I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to select Move. I'm going to select this body down here. I'm going to kind of move it out of the way first so I can see a little bit better. We're going to go to the top, and I'm going to grab this circle, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm going to kind of start to position it. You can grab this square here to move in both directions of this view at once, or you can do it with the arrows, which will only move left and right and up and down. I'm just going to kind of get this positioned. This is going to be a bit of a visual practice. We need to go to the side and make sure that we're that way. We can kind of see that it's starting to collide. If I go any further back, it can go a little bit further down though, as we can see. So now we have those two files about where they need to be. I'm relatively happy with that. I think it's going to be close enough for the work that I need to do today. Now, we need to do this a couple of more times. We're going to insert mesh, and I'm going to select from my computer, select 2, as that is the base plate for this file. And that put it, again, just at the origin. I'm going to drag it up a little bit, kind of look at where it's at. Now, I already have this part printed and installed in my vehicle. So I know the orientation that it is, and I know that this is upside down. I actually need to take this and rotate it 180 degrees. So now I know that that is the lowest constraint of this unit. From here, I can take a look and I can see that I'm currently interfering with all of my controls. I don't want to take those controls out of my skid steer, so I'm just going to have to look at raising it up just above them. Also, it's a full side there. The notched side is actually towards the back. So I need to take and rotate this 180 degrees again. Oh, I went too far. Grabbed the wrong one. Now we're square. I can move this back as much as possible to about there. Now I also can see that the back of this HD system does hang off the back of this by about 17 millimeters. We'll call it 20 to be safe. Now, so that point there, I'm just gonna hit OK for the moment. And then I'm gonna go do another move. But now I know where my point is, so let's see what 20 millimeters looks like. Hangs it way off, and it also hangs it way out of the front. Not ideal. I had to do just a quick look. I actually have this seat in there rotated in the improper direction, so I need to fix that quickly. Now that I've got that seat fixed, we can reevaluate the positioning of this tray. So I'm going to go rotate back. I'm going to do a move again. I'm going to move it all the way back to there. That's 29 millimeters. I know that I need 20 millimeters of clearance, so I can just go to 9 and see what that looks like. Much better. We're not hanging out quite as far. But if I really want this to fit well, I need to remove the seat. Now, it's not that hard to remove the seat in the printed model, so I think that's what I need to plan on. So I'm going to move this all the way back to the back of the cab. See where it's about to interfere, which is about there. I'm at negative 39 millimeters as it shows on this. If I need 20 millimeters of clearance, I need to go to negative 19. Now that, look at that, just inside of the cab, and I think that should be a pretty safe distance. So we still clear our sticks. We're going to hit OK. At this point, I can assume that the seat will not be in there, so I'm going to turn that off. So now this is going to be what the base of our structure looks like. And really what we need to concentrate on at this point is where the actual FPV system mounts, which is through these mounting points in the base of this bracket. These side mounts, those are actually what's used to create the tray that mounts in the H10 optic. I don't need those. At this point, for ease of visibility, I'm going to turn off the cab. If you only had one STL that you wanted to modify, this is the point where that process would start for you. We can't do our normal functions like cut and extrude and things like that to this body yet. We want to be able to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the mesh section at the very top, select mesh. In the modify, we're going to drop that down and we're going to go convert mesh. Now, this, depending on the detail of the item that you downloaded, can be very taxing on a system or impossible for Fusion to do. This should be just fine. So I'm going to select it. We're going to leave the basic faceted option selected. Prismatic may work for this one, but I'm going to leave it as faceted. And we're going to hit OK. And it's done. This one was super quick. Now what we have here is a basic solid like you would have worked with in the past. I am going to take and simplify this by removing the sides of this whole item right now. To do that, we need to create a sketch, we need a plane, all of the things that you are probably familiar with at this point. But if you're not, we're going to kind of walk through it in a simple way. I'm going to create a new plane. I'm going to hit construct. I'm going to go down to create plane through two edges. That's an easy one for this because we have a lot of straight lines and boxy shapes. So I'm going to say this front edge and this back edge, and now it creates this nice flat plane all the way across. And I'm going to hit OK. From here, I basically want to split these things apart. Now I could take and create a sketch on that and cut it, or you can hit split body up here. We're going to select the one body that we have. Splitting tool is going to be that new plane that we created, and we're going to hit OK. Now it's split those things into multiple pieces. These sides here, I don't need anymore. We're going to properly identify which both bodies are, which are these two, and I'm going to select them both by holding Command or Control on your keyboard. Then I'm going to hit right-click, remove. And now I'm left with just my simplified base plate. To turn off that plane if we'd like, we can do that. Now we have a very clean looking body that Fusion cleaned up for us from that faceted look. Not something I'm typically used to seeing it do, but lucky us for today. Now, I'm going to turn my cab back on. We do want to learn, we do want to get this data from down here, that seat. Now, we can try and do a convert mesh. The first thing I'm going to do is save this document because there's a chance Fusion will crash. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to call this Skitty FPV. Now, we're going to try that same thing we did before. Mesh, modify, convert mesh. We're going to select the cab body. You can see that warning down at the bottom saying that there's more than 10,000 triangles. Be prepared. I am prepared. I'm going to hit OK. And we wait. That was relatively quick. That was less than a minute. I'm happy to see that. So the one thing that's still left in there that's a mesh body is that seat that we're not going to be using anymore. But now we have something that we can actually work from. Now I want to create a sketch based on that surface. So to do so, I'm going to do that same thing again. Construct, plane through two edges, and I'm going to find a couple of lines that I like. We're going to say this top one at the top of the radius, and then I'm going to select one towards the back of it as well. And that'll give me a plane that I'm pretty confident will be true to that bottom of the seat. So now that I have this plane created, I'm going to do create sketch, and I'm going to select that plane. So we've got that. Now I would like to have these whole locations, but these are not true circles. So we can do a couple of things. I can go in and I can select all of these lines, which is a bit of a pain. And then we'll hit OK. So now I technically have a form of a circle that will work well enough, depending on how critical you want to be of this type of a setup. I also want a pretty large surface area, I feel like, just because this does have a little bit of a weight that sits up higher. So I think that I want to have like a surface that I can use some double-faced tape to make sure that it's nice and rigid down there. So I'm going to just go ahead and create a comfortably sized rectangle that I think will fit just fine. Now I am going to hit and create a line, by hitting L on my keyboard, X to create a construction line, and I'm going to find a point that I feel like is furthest to the outside of both sides, which is easily identifiable, to give me a construction line that I can then take and use as a midpoint for this whole thing. So now that I have those 2 points determined, we're going to make sure everything's nice and vertical, and I can feel pretty good about that. And I'm just going to assign some dimensions to this to feel comfortable about it. 40, I think we can fit a 50 millimeter space in there pretty easily. I'm going to shift it back a little bit, 22, keeps it nice in line. And our overall width is, I think we can go with 55. That should allow me to get it down between those sticks. We'll make sure that we have it designed in a way so that it slides through without hitting anything. So I'm going to hit E to extrude our new sketch, and I'm going to go up by, let's say, 6 millimeters. And we're going to make sure that we're on a new body and hit OK. Now, one thing to consider is that these holes were sized for smaller hardware. Use 2 millimeter hardware in this actual design. The surface area that I'm using here, the double face tape is probably going to be just fine. And the 2 millimeter likely not going to be all that great for me anyway. So I'm going to decide to not focus on those holes for the purpose of making this video reasonably brief. I need to attach this bottom to this upper portion here. That is just a matter of connecting the dots in whatever way you or I feel is the most reasonable in this case. So I'm going to take and decide to just go off of this front face, and we're going to create a new sketch. At the top, hit sketch, come down here. I'm going to select that face again. And then I'm going to hit create, intersect, and then I'm going to use the body selection at the top to create or to select everything that intersects on that body of our mount. So I'm going to hit OK, and now you can see those purple lines. That tells me those purple lines and that portion of that upper body are directly what would slice through from this front face. So we can kind of just play a little bit of connect the dots now, which is the fun part of CAD. Now again, I am concerned with being able to get things in past these sticks. So I need to make sure that I'm kind of taking that in mind. So I'm not going to start on the outside and come down. I'm just going to start from there, just outside of that, and go down to the bottom. I'll do the same up here. Now I'll dimension on this right side, and that was, let's just go to 8 to be comfortable, and we'll match that over here. 8. And now this top part, let's just do, let's just cross from either side. Something like that. And now that we have those lines, we can do a little bit of offsetting. So I'm going to use the O command, or you could find it right up here at the top. O. I'm going to make sure that chain selection is not selected, so it only selects one line at a time. We're going to grab that. We're going to come down and do 6. O again. -6 that time. We're just going to keep repeating that until I've got the framework of everything that I'm happy with, which that appears like it will do it. So now from here, we can hit E for extrude, and we can just select the areas that we want. I just kind of want this lattice frame style like that. Well, need one little section up here. Oh, I clicked one of my lines in the wrong spot, so I need to correct my sketch. All right, now that I've corrected my sketch, we can go back and do that selection one more time. making sure that it matches from one side to the other, that looks much better. So now let's just go back 6 millimeters. Working with these heavy converted meshes can slow a system down. The computer that I'm using in here is not a wildly impressive machine, so I'm experiencing a little bit of that with this setup. I'm going to turn my cab off right now. I'm going to join those models. And now these pieces are connected together. Now, we do have a little bit of a rake here, and if that seat bottom is actually flat in the skid steer, that's going to cause this top deck to be down just a little bit. But this is a gimbal that allows you to head track and look around, so it's going to be okay regardless. If I need to come back and modify it, I can do that after I've determined if it was an issue or not. So I'm fine with it for now. We're going to do this one more time. I'm going to create that same type of situation, but I'm going to do it by just offsetting a plane from back here. And I'm just going to drag that back a distance to where I don't think it's going to interfere with anything else. Call it right there, 28 millimeters. And I'm going to start a sketch on that face. I'm going to use the intersect command again. So down here, from the create menu, go down to project include, and then select intersect. Body selection will grab both parts, top and bottom, because they are one body now. Hit OK. And now we have a setting where we can kind of do this same thing. I'm going to use some of the data from the front side. I'm going to hit P for project. I'm going to grab the right side and the left side, if you're looking from the front. And that'll do it. Those two are enough. They don't come up and touch, so we're gonna have to extend those manually to make sure that we have a good starting point. And on the other one, we went from that point down to the bottom. We're just gonna do that same thing. From here, I'm going to do a bunch of those offsets again. O for offset, select a line, and we're going to just repeat those steps. Either 6 millimeters or -6 over and over. And now I'm going to hit E for extrude and create the second half of this support. I'm going to go 6 millimeters back. And now we've got something. I don't want to overcomplicate this thing. That's a rarity for me. But I know that I've got the screw holes available, but they are covered up. So I'm going to make one modification. I'm going to make a sketch on this bottom, and I'm going to make sure by hitting P for project, selecting that face, and hitting enter, now I know where those hardware holes are on the top, because right now those screw in from the bottom into this thing, and right now I would have a hard time getting a tool to them. I'd have to use some sort of ball end or something like that. So I'm just going to hit C for circle, and I'm going to give myself a 5 millimeter clearance hole around each of these things. Now I have those 4 holes there. I always yell at you to define your sketches, and I'm going to do that just for completeness. So I'm going to hit L for line, and I'm going to create a line that goes between the 2 extents that I can then attach this to the center point of. So it continues to define my sketches. If I don't follow my own rules, I feel like I'm a bad teacher. Regardless of my dad saying to me, do as I say, not as I do, I am going to do what I say. So there we've got those done. We're going to hit E for extrude, and we're going to cut some holes through this bottom. And now we can get our driver, our regular hex driver, through the bottom up into where that Explorer FPV system from Ironquad mounts to this base. I'm fighting the urge to go in and add a bunch of fillets to fancy this up, but what I should do is just print it and see how everything fits, if everything is going to work properly, and if this is a decent enough start to go further. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send this to the 3D printer, get this thing installed. So that was a basic use case of taking a downloaded file, making some modifications to create something useful that is derived from that at the end. Hopefully that's something that may be helpful to you. I'm looking forward to getting this mounted into my skid steer. So I'm going to get this printing and get this video edited while it's printing. Hopefully you see an FPV video from a skid steer very soon. But if you enjoy STL Sunday, you want to see more of it, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already. These videos have been doing fairly well on the subscription side, and I appreciate that a lot. Hopefully you continue to learn something. If you have a suggestion, something you've wanted to learn, which is where this topic came from, then drop it down in the comments below, and I'll try and get through those. I did have a couple of comments for ones that are just super uber basic early step stuff, and that if that's something that you need, drop that down there and we'll focus on something just very basic, very slow, and very methodical in the next episode. But let me know what you guys think, what you need to learn. I'll be happy to do my best to teach it. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. Hit the like button if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you're not already. We said a bunch of those things. It's going to do it. See you on the next one.